You ever have that one neighbor who thinks the rules don't apply to them? Like, the kind of person who doesn't just bend the rules, they snap him in half, set him on fire, and call it community leadership? Yeah, I had one of those. Her name was Cheryl Whitmore, president of our HOA in a little slice of suburbia called Silver Creek Pines. Sound peaceful, right? You'd think so. Neatly trimmed lawns, quarterly potlucks, fake smiles over picket fences. But the second Cheryl got that gavel in her hand, it was like flipping a switch. The woman didn't enforce the rules, she weaponized them. Now, I'm just a guy named Luke. Single dad, work-from-home handyman, trying to raise my teenage daughter and mind my own business. Our townhouse sits right at the edge of the cul-de-sac, right where the fire lane loops around, clearly painted red with big block letters. No parking. Emergency access only. But guess who didn't give a damn? It started on a Monday. Cheryl pulled up in her shiny black Escalade, custom plates, tinted windows, and those giant chrome rims that make the car look like it's flexing. She parked that beast right across the fire lane, like she was dropping anchor. I peeked through my blinds. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was dropping off groceries, quick stop, something like that. But an hour later, still there. 2 hours, still there. Sunset? You guessed it. So I walk out, polite as I can muster. Hey Cheryl, just so you know, that's the emergency lane. First responders gotta use that if. She cuts me off with this smug little smirk, says, Luke, I'm the HOA president. I'm fully aware of the regulations. This is temporary, official board business. And then she spins on her heels and walks away like that explains everything. I let it go. I really did. Told myself not to pick a fight I didn't need. But the next day, there it was again. And again the day after that. She'd park, strut inside with her clipboard, and disappear for hours. One time, I caught her having wine with the treasurer on the porch. Board business, I'm sure. Meanwhile, if I left my trash bins out for 5 extra minutes, violation notice. Now here's where it stops being petty and starts being personal. My neighbor 2 doors down, Jonah, he's a good guy. Quiet, divorced, raising his daughter Harper, who has a rare condition called Lennox-Gastaut. Basically, it means seizures. Sudden, terrifying, unpredictable seizures. There was a night about 6 months before Cheryl started parking there when Harper collapsed on their kitchen floor. I remember watching Jonah sprint outside, Harper in his arms, screaming for help. The ambulance barely made it in time. The EMTs used the fire lane and later told Jonah if they'd had to circle around, it could have ended differently. That stuck with me. So now, every time Cheryl blocked that lane, all I saw was Harper, every second counting down like a fuse. I tried reason. I emailed the HOA board, attached photos, timestamps. Even a short clip from my Ring camera showing Cheryl parking there past midnight like some HOA ninja. I kept the tone neutral, just raised a concern. 2 days later, Cheryl showed up at my door with 2 other board members and a measuring tape. Routine inspection, she chirped. We've had a few reports about non-compliant gutter extensions and unauthorized shed modifications. I don't have a shed. They flagged me for the color of my porch light, a leaning fence post. And get this, excessive mulch thickness. I got slapped with $600 in fines and a 72-hour deadline to fix it or face daily penalties. That's when I knew she wasn't just ignoring the rules. She was punishing me for speaking up. He was terrified that next time, Cheryl's SUV might cost his daughter her life. Man, he said, if something happens during the day, we might not make it. That night, I sat in my garage staring at my old workbench. Tools lined up, dusty graph paper rolled in the corner. I remembered the bylaws. Section 9B, Paragraph 4. Residents may install reasonable safety mechanisms on their property provided they do not interfere with emergency operations or public utilities. And technically, the edge of that fire lane was part of my easement. So I started sketching. What if I could build something not to hurt anyone, but to stop this madness cold? I wanted something that would stop her from ever thinking that lane was fair game again. Something legal, something safe, something unforgettable. So I designed a pop-up barrier system. A pressure plate under the asphalt, connected to a hydraulic post, nothing sharp, nothing sudden. Just a firm steel block that would rise slowly from the ground if a vehicle remained parked in the lane longer than 10 minutes. It'd give 2 vocal warnings. If ignored, up comes the post. Like magic. I told nobody, not even Jonah. I filed for a stormwater improvement permit, called it a personal drainage control installation, which wasn't a lie. I did add a few channels to direct runoff away from my garage. The hardware arrived in pieces, ordered from different vendors, nothing to raise eyebrows. Friday night, I started digging. Cheryl saw me from across the cul-de-sac, arms crossed. I squinted like she was inspecting enemy trenches. By Sunday, the system was in place, camouflaged, calibrated, ready. And Monday morning, her Escalade was back, parked right on top of it. At 10 a.m. sharp, the speaker chirped its first message. This is an emergency access zone. Please move your vehicle within 5 minutes to avoid enforcement measures. Cheryl looked around, confused, then rolled her eyes and walked off. 2 more warnings came. Still nothing. At 10, the post rose. It didn't damage her car, not at first. It gently lifted, pushing up between the frame and the chassis, splitting her Escalade like a banana peel. Tires off the ground. Frame flexed. And Cheryl? She screamed like someone stole her throne. Neighbors poured out of their homes, phones up, mouths open. I didn't say a word. I stood behind my mailbox and watched the circus unfold. She called the cops. They arrived. I had my permits ready, my plans, my footage. One of the officers muttered, "That's the most lawful revenge I've ever seen." Turns out Cheryl's registration was expired. So was her license. Oh, and she had no insurance. The SUV got towed away, in 2 pieces. But Cheryl wasn't done. She sued me for property damage, emotional distress, and creating a hazardous environment. But the HOA board? They'd had enough. Jonah spoke at the next meeting, told everyone about Harper, the seizures, the risk. Other neighbors shared stories too. How Cheryl fined a war veteran for having a flag too high on his porch. How she threatened to evict a widowed grandmother over non-regulation wind chimes. The board voted. Unanimously. Cheryl was removed as president. Fined for falsifying HOA notices. Her lawsuit quietly disappeared a month later. And by spring, her house had a for sale sign out front. No goodbye party. No farewell newsletter. Just silence. And that pop-up barrier? Still there. It's gone off 2 more times. Once for a landscaper, once for a realtor. Both moved real fast when the warning started. Harper's doing better now. Still has episodes. But the ambulance can always get through. People talk to each other again on our street. Share cookies, wave at the mailman, even hang string lights without fear of a citation. We're a community again, not a kingdom ruled by a clipboard tyrant. I never wanted to be the guy who built a trap. But sometimes, when the system fails to protect the vulnerable, you gotta get creative. And sometimes, justice doesn't wear a robe. It wears steel and rises from the ground when you least expect it. So now I gotta ask, what would you have done? Would you have waited? Appealed to the board again? Or would you have built the thing I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's the worst HOA story you've ever heard? And do you think what I did was justice, or just petty? Hit like if you believe in creative problem solving. Share this with someone who's dealt with a Cheryl, and if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Because sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to out-engineer it.